Hello everybody, happy Valentine's Day. I'm recording this on Valentine's Day. Love you guys. Wearing my red, wearing my hearts. And so here we go. This is the quiz video to review for Thursday's quiz, which is based on finding percent of a number using fractions and decimals, which was page 51 and page 52, the worksheet that we had from last week. And I returned it to you all so you had it, and I reminded you when I passed it back, the quiz is going to come from some of these questions. So remember that on page 51, it shows you how to use fractions to find a percent of a number. And on page 52, it was using decimals to show the percent of a number. I'm going to have on the quiz both of those as a requirement. So there's not going to be that many questions, but some of them I'm going to ask for a fraction to solve it, and some I'm going to ask for a decimal to solve it. So we'll go over both of those in this video. Please remember that as you're watching this video, you're going to have your journals out in front of you. You're going to be writing down the problems, pausing the video to solve it yourself, and then I'll solve it for you on the board. And check your work. Make sure that you photograph those solutions that you have in your journal and attach it to this assignment that this video was linked to, so that I can give you credit for watching the video and the notes. All right, so let's get started. All right, our first problem that we're going to solve is from page 51. Page 51. Oh, by the way, I'm going to put my date up here. Today was 2/14/23. Although you're probably going to be watching this maybe on the 14th, maybe it's Valentine's Day, or maybe you're going to be watching it on the day after. This is page 51, problem 9a. This is one that requires a fraction for its solution. And the problem that we're looking at is 90% of 60. So if you remember from the directions that are right here at the top of page 51, that the way that they show you to do that is to start by turning 90% into a fraction. That's going to be 90 over 100. Of meaning multiply. Turning 60 into a fraction, that is 60 over 1. And then here you are in a situation where you're going to be multiplying fractions. Remember that we multiply across the top, you multiply across the bottom for that solution. But I want to also remind you that we had a lesson not too long ago about cross-simplifying and pre-simplifying a multiplication of fractions problem. So here we are in a situation where I have numbers that are 90 over 100, that can simplify. We also have a problem going diagonally that can simplify, all right? So it's either cross-simplifying, as long as one of the numerators and a denominator can simplify. There's something that can divide into 60 that can also divide into 100. There's also something that can divide into 90 that will divide into 100. So you're going to pick one, either the vertical numerator denominator here, or you're going to pick the diagonal, this numerator and this denominator. All right? I mean, you can do combinations of those. We'll see what happens after we simplify this set. So what number? I'm going to go with the diagonal. I'm going to say the cross simplifying here. I have 60, I have 100, so obviously 10 goes into both. Divide by 10, divide by, I'm going to put it over on this side, divide by 10. 60 divided by 10 equals 6, so now I don't have a 60, now I have a 6. 100 divided by 10 is no longer 100, now it is 10. And I've got a diagonal here that can still simplify. I've got a vertical here that can simplify, right? So now that I have my new numbers, I can simplify again. I have a 90 and I have a 10. What number goes into both? Now technically I could go diagonal because something goes into 6 that goes into 10 as well. But I'm going to go with this vertical here this time. So I'm going to cross out my 90. I'm going to divide by 10. I'm going to cross out my 10, divided by 10. Now I have a 9 and a 1. Because 90 divided by 10 is 9. 10 divided by 10 is 1. So now I have a 9 and a 1. I have a 6 and a 1. There's nothing diagonally this way that can simplify now. There's nothing diagonally this way that can simplify now. There's nothing that can simplify vertically either. 9 and 1, 6 and 1. Now I'm ready to multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. 9 times 6 is 54. 1 times 1 is 1. 54 over 1, we know what that is. When you simplify that fraction, that is simply 54. Anytime you have a number in the numerator that is over 1 in the denominator, it simplifies to just being the numerator. 54 over 1 means 54 divided by 1, which is 54. So 90% of 60 is 54. So on your work, on the quiz, I want to see, I'm going to give you a problem that's like this. I want to see you translate this 90% into a fraction, this 60 into a fraction. If it can simplify or pre-simplify, cross-simplify or pre-simplify, I want you to do that, multiply, and then whatever your answer, it might not be over 1. We'll have to see. We'll do another example. If it is, then great. But then I also want to have a statement at the end that goes back to our question. 90% of 60 is what? 90% of 60 is 54. All right, let's do a second problem. This next one, I'm going to have you pause before I solve it, so you can solve it yourself and then check with the work that I give you. All right, let's pick another one. Let's go with question 10b. All right, question 10b is 9. Well, that didn't look very good. Let me try that 9 a little better. 9% of 60. All right, pause the video, solve that question, then unpause the video and see if you got what you got. All right, both of these questions, I'm wanting you to use a fraction to solve it. All right, pause video, solve it, check it, turn the video back on, and let's see. Okay, you should have a solution now. Again, I'm going to turn my 9% into a fraction. That's 9 over 100 of, meaning multiply, 60 over 1. Here I am in another situation where I can cross simplify here. I cannot vertically simplify. There's nothing that divides into 9 that also goes into 100 to make this a simpler fraction. So I have to do the diagonal, all right? Divided by 10, divided by 10. I want you to show me these divided by 10s, right? As you simplify, right? That's how you're going to show me that you're cross simplifying. So now I have a 6 and a 10. I have a 9 and a 10. All right. So I could simplify again this way. I have a 6 and a 10. 2 goes into both of those, which means originally 20 could have gone into 60 and 20 goes into 100. But I don't mind if you simplify and then realize, oops, I missed it. I can simplify one more time. So let's try it again. Divided by 2, divided by 2, 6 turns into a 3, 10 turns into a 5, 10 divided by 2 is 5, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So now I have a 9, a 5, a 3, and a 1. There's nothing diagonally here that will simplify. There's nothing diagonally this way that will simplify. There's nothing vertically, nothing vertically. All right, I'm ready to simplify it. All right, or to multiply it, I should say. All right, so 9 times 3 is 27. 5 times 1 is 5. Now I have a fraction, 27 over 5. Well, that's technically the answer, but we're looking for something that's a little bit friendlier, that's going to be helpful to us, right? So we have to then take this 27 over 5 and turn it back into a number that we can use, a decimal, right? So how do we do that? Remember that this fraction can be written as a division problem that will tell us what the decimal is. The numerator divided by the denominator. 27 divided by 5. It's top heavy, right? It's an improper fraction. The number on top is larger, which means that we're going to get a whole number answer here with a decimal, but it's a larger. This answer is larger than 1 whole. So 5 goes into 27 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. Here's division at work again, right? So don't forget that you gotta keep division in practice. So I have nothing to bring down, so I added my decimals, I added my 0, bring it down. 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract, and I'm done. 5 and 4/10. So 27/5 equals 5 and 4/10. All right. Now I want to show you something. Oh, isn't that interesting? Look at that. 90% of 60 was 54. 9% of 60 is 5.4. The difference was that decimal point is moved over. I want to show you one more thing, though, that I think is really important. So I'm going to go back before we did that last set of cross-simplifying. So this is the answer that you should end up with, right? If you end up there with a division problem, that's fantastic. Oh, I want my final step to say 9% of 60 is 5 and 4/10. All right, I'm going to erase this over here and do one quick thing about that problem that maybe some of you noticed. We started off with 9 over 100. We had times 60 over 1. We divided by 10, divided by 10. Now we had a 10 here and a 6 here. Remember that when you are dividing by 10 or dividing by 100, you simply can move that decimal point over 1 spot if it's divided by 10, or move that decimal point 2 spots over if it's divided by 100. So when I simplified here with the 6 and the 10 to make it a 3 and a 5, I didn't technically have to do that step. That forced me to have to do a division problem. Let's see what we get if we just simplify or multiply this. 9 times 6 is 54. 10 times 1 is 10. Because there's 1 0 in our ones place here in the denominator, it's moved that decimal point over 1 spot. 54 has a decimal here, move it 1 spot over because I divided by 10. So then I would say 9% of 60 is 5.4. This right here would be an explanation for what is happening here without showing me a division problem. All right, either way is totally acceptable. If you wrote something here, you can't just move your arrow. You need to tell me why you're doing it, right? So if that's helpful for you to think about, sometimes you might get to a point in your problem where you're simplifying, you're going, oh, I'm going to have a 10 in the bottom, or I'm going to have 100 on the bottom. Technically, you didn't need to cross-simplify at all because you're going to have 100 in the bottom. 9 times 60 is 540, and I moved my decimal point 2 spots because I divided by 100. Could have been a third choice. Remember how I said that there's multiple ways that you might get around to this answer. Either way, we're going to get to the same answer, whether you do a division problem or whether you're moving your decimal point 1 spot because dividing by 10, or moving 2 spots because you're dividing by 100. All right. Hopefully that is clear. you could pick any one of those ways as you are solving a problem, if that's the situation, if it ends up with a 10 or a 100 in the denominator, which it very well may be on the quiz. So that is showing me fractions to solve. Now we're going to have two problems that use a decimal to solve. All right, so get ready for that one. All right, we're here now. We're going to look at page 52, which talk about using decimals to solve the exact same kind of problems. We're going to be looking at problem 6a, which says try again, Mr. Bell, 120% of 35. All right. We already know just from looking at this that 100% of a number is the whole thing. So since we're looking at 120%, that means we're going to end up with an answer larger than 35, just so we can have that in our minds when we go, right? All right, so instead of turning these into fractions to solve, we're going to turn them into decimals that we can work with, all right? So 120% as a decimal is 1.2. We're going to move our decimal over 2 spots to the left. 2 spots to the left to turn a percent into a decimal. So now I have 1.2 that I'm multiplying times 35. All right? Still is multiplication, but now I turned my 120% into a decimal. I want you to show me this step. If you don't show me turning a percent into a decimal, you're not going to get full credit for that question. All right? So I have 1.2, 1 2/10 times 35. I don't really care which one you put on top. If you want to put 35 on top and the 1.2 on the bottom, you'll get the same answer. That's commutative property of multiplication in action. It doesn't matter what order you're multiplying things, you'll get the same answer. All right? 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. Smiley face here, that's my placeholder. Starting in the tens place, answer starts in the tens place. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. Add them up. 0, 2, carry my 1, 420. There is one digit to the right of the decimal point. So I'm going to move my decimal spot over. I have 42 as my answer. 42 is larger than 35. So I know that at least that part I'm right on board, right? Well, since it's there, let's solve it just to make sure. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. Smiley face. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 3 is 3. Add 2, 420. There's one digit to the right of the decimal there. Move my decimal point over. I also got 42. All right, either way, I get the right answer. That's fine. I want to see all of the math calculation here. I don't need to see both. You don't have to show me both. All right, I just want to see one. Okay, so that seemed to be a little bit faster than the other method. So take a moment, look at this, make sure this is copied into your notes. You're going to do the next problem on your own. Let's do 20, let's do, this is 8B. 22% of 142. All right, pause the video, solve it, then unpause the video and double check. All right, hold on a minute, reverse. I forgot something. What's my last step? I wanted to know what this is. I'm gonna have a statement down here. It says 120% of 35 is 42. That is a requirement. Now, pause the video and solve that guy. All right, here we go. 22%. That is 0.22, 22 hundredths, right? So now I've showed this to convert this into a decimal. Now I'm gonna write myself a multiplication problem. I'm gonna choose to put the 142 on top and the 22 hundredths on the bottom, just because for me, a larger number on top makes more sense, although it doesn't matter what order you go. All right, and then we multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. Smiley face here is my placeholder because I'm starting in the tens place, or tenths place here, so I'm gonna have my answer start right below. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. I don't have to worry about the 0 unless there was another whole number after it, right? There isn't, so I'm just gonna stop there because it's gonna be 0 times 2, 0 times 4, 0 times 1. It's not gonna change anything. So I'm gonna add. I have 2 digits to the right of the decimal point, so I'm gonna move my decimal point over 2 spots to have 31 and 24 hundredths. Not a very friendly answer, but it's good enough. If it was money, if it was 22% of $142, then that would be $31.24. But it doesn't say dollar sign, so this is not a dollar answer. It's just 31 and 24 hundredths. But I have to write my statement to say 22% of 142 is 31 and 24 hundredths. That is my final answer. All right. So I know I moved quickly, but this is review from what we've been doing for the last couple weeks. So I hope you're ready. I think it makes sense to me that we might have on this quiz 4 problems, 2 fraction, 2 decimal. All right, just like we did just now. So you're gonna wanna make sure you are brushed up on your multiplication, long algorithm, and you're gonna wanna make sure that you brush up on the cross simplifying piece. That might be something you wanna practice, if that's something that would be helpful. You're gonna wanna brush up on the division piece. If you're not gonna cross simplify, then you probably will have to do a division problem for sure. So make sure that you're feeling good about that. But that's pretty good. I think we're all set. If you have any questions, send me an email, check in with me. I know we don't have a office hours because, well, we will tomorrow, the 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, but if you're watching this on the 15th, then you're kind of out of luck. Because the next day, Thursday, is the quiz. So do your best, but I hope you watched the video and I hope it was helpful. All right, don't forget, take a photo of all your problems. There should be 4 of them there. Attach it to this video assignment. All right, thanks a lot. Have a good afternoon. Happy Valentine's Day. Love you guys.